What is going on, everybody? Extra Dough, episode 6 here. It's JD. Excited. We're going to be talking college football as we do each and every week leading up to the college football season. Show is brought to you by Daily Bread Media, as always, at YonkersCFB on Twitter. Let's go ahead and get things rolling today. Today, we're going to be talking about some make it or break it years. Make or break years. Now, what does that mean? It means teams and coaches that are going to need to start showing something on the field soon. Maybe they've shown a little bit, but not what they're expecting in a program like that. And maybe it's they haven't shown anything, and it's time to show something, or that coach is out the door. So I've selected 3 teams. These are teams I could see a big leap from in 2022. Basically, teams I am expecting a big leap from in 2022. And if we don't see that big leap, that means there's something wrong, and that would be a break it year. Something goes wrong. If you're not successful this year, it probably means you are not going to be successful. So I've selected 3 teams here. First one we're going to talk about is USF. Yeah, we're starting with South Florida. The Bowls. Jeff Scott, this is his 3rd year on campus, and he is 3-18 overall. 3 wins, 18 losses. That's not good, folks. Generally, if you're talking about a most improved team, that means you have nowhere to go but up. And the Bulls only won 2 games a year ago. So why am I expecting improvement? Because Jeff Scott has shown nothing thus far at USF. Well, they return 18 starters, 10 offensively and 8 defensively. They rank number 5 in the country in returning production. They basically return everything. And what they add to that group, it's not that they just return guys, because a lot of times, right, you would say they return guys, but you just told me they sucked. They've won 3 games in 2 years. Okay, correct. Touche. But you have to kind of paint the picture here. This is a team from South Florida, should be a recruiting hotbed. You have Jeff Scott coming in, should be recruiting talent. We've seen some of his players, right? But now in year 3, you really expect to see those players take a leap, right? They should be his guys now. And that's what I expect. They have a good quarterback in Timmy McClain. I say he's good. He showed flashes last year. It was very inconsistent, but that's what you expect from a freshman quarterback, right? So he was a main one that you could see take a big step forward. The issue is he's probably going to not have his job anymore because they brought in a quarterback transfer from Baylor, Jerry Bohannon. All he did is win the Big 12 championship a year ago. So that means it's probably going to be his job transferring down. I do like that transfer down spot. He lost his job to Blake Shapen, but I mean, Blake Shapen looked like the real deal, right? He in the Big 12 championship game, he started a perfect 17 for 17 passing with a couple of touchdowns in that first half. I believe he had 3 passing touchdowns, right, against a good Oklahoma State defense. So I don't think there's too much shame in Bohannon losing his job. It's not like he's a superstar, but he could do some big things in the American Conference, I think, either him or McClain. So I think you have 2 very good options at quarterback. I expect a big year out of Bohannon. And you bring in some other transfers as well. You bring in Aju from Clemson to throw out wide. And then you also have Khafre Brown, younger brother of De'Ami Brown, who really showed flashes at UNC before going in the doghouse and transferring to USF. So you have 2 really good transfers, and you add that to 2 very good wide receivers. You have Xavier Weaver, who graded out as one of the better players in the country. PFF graded him out in a few metrics last year. And then you have Jimmy Horn, who I think might be the best of that whole wide receiver room. This kid is an absolute track star with a ball in his hands. We saw him as a freshman last year show signs. I think he's a huge breakout candidate personally. So I think that's one of the best wide receiver cores in the group of 5. You add a transfer like Jerry Bohannon to that. You add all that returning production. I think for sure you have 5 guys returning on the offensive line. I think this offense should actually be pretty good this year. So I don't really have qualms about that. What's the issue then? I think the issue is on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's the key factor. They allowed over 34 points per game a season ago, allowed over 470 yards per game. They ranked 117th in scoring and 123rd in total defense. So that's not good. They did bring in a new defensive coordinator, Bob Shoop. So at least you're saying on that side of the ball, they return a lot of production, and you would hope a new defensive coordinator, right? He's going to the 4-2-5 scheme. So you would hope that would show some dividends in year 1. But I would say a positive sign. I mean, you return your top 6 tacklers from a year ago. So I think there's nowhere to go but up on that side of the ball. I expect both units to improve. You look through last year, they only won 2 games last year. They weren't good. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to give Jeff Scott a pass here, right? But some of their games were close. They lost 35-27 to a really good BYU team. They lost by 1 point to Tulsa. Houston, they scored 40 points on Houston. Still caught the loss there. Couldn't keep up with them. Only a 17-13 loss to UCF, and then they were really close with Cincinnati. If you remember watching that game, it's like, what the hell's going on with Cincinnati? So they improved as the year went on. I think they showed some things overall. My one problem this year, so basically, I do expect them to take a huge step forward. If they don't, that's a huge indictment on Jeff Scott. Huge indictment. This is make or break year. If he doesn't succeed with this talent, in my opinion, I mean, at that point, he's just throwing crap at the wall, right? Taking those wide receiver transfers when he already had some pretty good talent, taking that quarterback transfer. If those don't pay off, this could go south in a hurry. I kind of think it will pay off, but we'll see. Because like I said, the schedule is really going to be difficult. They play BYU, they play Florida, and they play Louisville in the non-con. We're going to talk about Louisville later. I think Louisville might be pretty good. They're another make-or-break team, though. You play the 4 best teams in the AAC as well. So when you look at their win total, it's 4.5, and it's kind of difficult to get to 5, to be honest with you. You play Howard and Temple. Those are probably your quote-unquote sure wins. And everything else is a toss-up. You play ECU, you play Tulane, you play Tulsa. You might need an upset to get to 5. So I'm not necessarily bullish on betting the team total, but I will say I expect this team to be really improved. And if there's a team that kind of comes out of nowhere and is bowl eligible, I would not be surprised whatsoever at USF. I think they have a ton of things going on in their favor. And like I said, if they don't reach a bowl, it might be time to start looking elsewhere for your coaching gig. All right, next up, we got the Penn State Nittany Lions out of the Big Ten. Let's go to the Big Ten. They were only 7-6 a year ago. That's not good enough. That's not going to cut it. Not going to cut it, James Franklin, right? There's always rumors of him taking another job. There's always weird rumors about James Franklin. I don't know what it is. 7-6 is not going to cut it. So why I call it a make or break year, I know it might sound weird for a program like Penn State and James Franklin, who doesn't seem like he'd be on the hot seat, but it's a pivotal moment. We'll call this a pivotal season for them. Only going 7-6 a year ago, that needs to improve. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Some signs for improvement. You do have Mike Yurcich back as the offensive coordinator. This is going to be his second season. I really had high hopes for this guy coming in last year. He had some really good offenses when he was at Oklahoma State and had a small track record at Texas as well. It seemed like he was going to come in there, bring some tempo offense, and with some of those skill position guys that they have at Penn State, it seems like they could really make that work in the Big Ten. The issue is it didn't work last year at all. The offense was not good. They only scored 25 points per game, and they ranked 118th in rushing offense, which for a school like Penn State that's in rushing the crap out of the ball, that is not a good sign whatsoever. So Mike Yurcich back in year 2, it's make it or break it for him. If the offense doesn't get much better, that's a sign for concern. So you do get Sean Clifford back at quarterback for another year. And listen, I know he's not very good. I know he's very inaccurate, but he can run a little bit and he has a lot of experience. I do think their wide receiving group is pretty good. They've had some stars at wide receiver, KJ Hamler, Jahan Dotson, right? I don't think they have another star like that in this wide receiver group, but I think they have 3 pretty dang good ones. You have Keandre Lambert-Smith is back. You have Parker Washington, who a lot of people like as kind of a smaller guy, should rack up the receptions, become a little bit more of a go-to guy. And then you also have a huge transfer in Mitchell Tinsley. All he did at Western Kentucky last year was 1,400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he's no slouch in his own right. I think if one develops into having that monster year, I think Washington's a great player. I'm not sure he's like a Jahan Dotson level. I think that kid was sort of a freak. But Mitchell Tinsley put up huge stats a year ago. I know it's a big step up, all right, playing in that Western Kentucky Zach Kittley offense. But, I mean, he's a possibility. Basically, I like this receiving group. You have Theo Johnson, who could take a step up at tight end. I don't know if he's quite there yet in his development, but I see a lot of good receiving potential in him, and we know what Penn State likes to do with their tight ends, right? And I think the offense you should expect to take a step forward, right? I think you should expect that. Defensively, technically you only return 4 starters, but you do get PJ Mustipher back, and that defensive front, and he was really crucial for stuffing that run game. I think they're going to be pretty nasty to run on. I think they're going to take a big step forward looking at the talent they have up front and what they returned from guys who were injured a year ago. They ranked 67th in rush defense last year, so I think I see a pretty big improvement in that area, and you can kind of see the formula for success, right? If you are in year 2 of the system offensively, and then defensively you shore up that rush defense, which there are clear signs they could do. You can kind of see the formula for this working, right? So let's take a look at the schedule. You have to play at Purdue to start the year. Not too easy. You have to play at Auburn in the non-con, and you have to play at Michigan. So those are 3 not great road games. I know Purdue's nothing crazy, but that first game of the year is really going to be a test. Like if you're not coming out firing, Purdue is a team that'll just come out and drop 35 on you, and you're going to have to respond. That being said, they do get Minnesota, Northwestern, Maryland, and Michigan State at home. I think those are all winnable games. They're kind of toss-ups. They are all winnable. I think a 3-loss season's on the table because you play Ohio State and at Michigan. Those are 3 very difficult games. You could win at Michigan. It's going to be tough, but that's still winnable. I don't think anyone's expecting a blowout. So basically, every game is winnable. Ohio State maybe not, but you can paint the picture here where a 3-loss season at a 2-loss season, at very best, things would really have to click right. If you're assuming not everything clicks, you can still see like a 4-win season, and definitely like a 5-win season is on the table. There's a wide range of outcomes, and if this team clicks, this could be a big year. If it doesn't click, like I said, all those coin flip games, if you lose some of those home games, you have to take care of business against teams like Maryland and Minnesota. If Michigan State comes in there and beats you, then you're going to have some serious problems, and Penn State's going to have some questions to ask because this is a program that has backslid a little bit. You had some big recruiting wins. You get Nick Singleton in at running back. He might be the best freshman running back in the country. This kid might be a monster. He's going to contribute from day one. Is that going to totally solve this rushing attack? I don't know. But like I said, Mike Yurcich year 2, the offense as a whole could take a step forward. You have your quarterback of the future in Drew Aller coming in. He's probably not playing this year because you got Sean Clifford. He didn't quite look ready in the spring game, but he is a big-time recruit. I think he's going to be ready sooner rather than later. So if you have a big season, you can see the program taking a step forward looking into the future. If you don't see those steps forward, it kind of ruins the momentum you're trying to build on the recruiting trail, right? Third team I want to talk about is Louisville. The Louisville Cardinals. They rank 14th in returning production. That's one reason I'm very intrigued. They rank 6th in returning production on the offensive side of the ball. I did pull these numbers, I believe, before some of the news where some guys hit the transfer portal, mainly Tyler Harrell, wide receiver to Alabama, Jordan Watkins to Ole Miss. So I don't think these numbers capture their departures, but I'm not too worried about either of those departures because they were a wide receiver by committee a year ago. Basically, you have Malik Cunningham as one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. He's the artist formerly known as Mikhail. Used to be his first name. Now it's Malik. He ran for over 1,000 yards and 20 touchdowns a season ago, which just does not happen, quite frankly. He threw for almost 3,000 yards, which is insane. Throwing for almost 1,000 yards, rushing for 1,020 touchdowns. Just incredible numbers. And it's not like this team was putting up crazy numbers. So he's a very good player. You have 3 good running backs. You have Travion Cooley, a freshman who I think could be due for a breakout year. Very good receiver, very versatile back. I think he could absolutely blow up this year. But he might split the carries with 2 other good backs that they have. You have Tyon Evans, who was the number 1 JUCO running back coming out last year and played at Tennessee. Had a pretty good year, but split carries there, but showed that he's a really talented back. And then you have Jalen Mitchell, who did disappoint somewhat as the starter a year ago, but I mean, he looked like the best player on the field in the spring game, and he's a very talented back. So at worst, he's a third running back that any team would really like to have. As far as wide receivers, you do get Tyler Hudson, who transfers in from Central Arkansas. I think he's going to be a very versatile weapon. I think he's probably going to be their go-to guy. And then Amari Huggins-Bruce can step up. And Marshawn Ford's one of the better tight ends in college football. So I think you're really well set at the skill positions, and you have a great quarterback. You have a veteran offensive line. This Satterfield offense really clicks when you can run the ball effectively, and I think they're going to do that here. I mean, I think they're going to take a step forward running the ball, and that opens up the passing game, right? The deep pass in the system when that running game works. And I think the more traditional running attack's going to work. Last year, you did run for over 200 yards per game, but a lot of that was kind of skewed, right? A lot of that was like Cunningham scrambles and whatnot. I think the traditional rushing attack is going to be better with the right veteran offensive line, three great backs, great rushing quarterback. I don't see how it couldn't be. So I think this offense is going to be very, very, very dangerous. So you're asking, with all that said, you're saying they have all this talent. What happened last year? What went wrong? Well, they went 6-7 a year ago. That's really not good. But they were always a frustrating team, a really hard team to get a read on, especially in the betting markets, because they outgained their opposition by 43 yards per game. Outgained their opponents by 43 yards per game and still finished with a losing record. That's unusual, to say the least. Very unusual profile. Basically, what that tells me is you need to tighten the screws. A lot of that ties back into coaching. Satterfield was a guy I was high on heading into Louisville, and now this is why it's a make or break year, because you have all this talent. You were close in a lot of these games, right? Every single game you lost, I think other than the NC State game, and then you got blown out by Kentucky. But every other game was a really, really close game. It was a one-score game. So you need to tighten the screws, but you can see what they're building there. The defense does have to improve, but I think you have some talented front seven. Yasir Abdullah, I almost forgot his name. Yasir Abdullah is one of the best defensive players a lot of people haven't heard of in college football. Had 16 and a half tackles for loss and 10 sacks a year ago. And one thing with Satterfield that makes this case interesting this year is they have a lot of momentum on the recruiting trail. They just signed the number 2 running back in the class of 2023, Reuben Owens, right? A 5-star. So he's coming in, and that's to join an already impressive class that included wide receiver DeAndre Moore Jr. and then your quarterback of the future in 4-star Pierce Clarkson. So you can really see it coming together on the recruiting trail. They clearly got their NIL collective in place, and that's big for recruiting in this day and age. So why I call this a make or break year? I mean, Satterfield is probably buying himself some insurance and some safety as a coach with that big those big recruits. It was one way to look at it, but the other way to look at it is if this team disappoints again this season. Who cares how much talent you're bringing in if you can't win the ball game? So I think things could get ugly if it doesn't go well. Overall, I think I'm bullish on Louisville. I'm cautiously optimistic. I want to see how the talent comes together, right? Not really a program I trust at this point in time. And the schedule is a little, you could see it going either way. It's really up to them how they want their season to go. You play at Syracuse, at UCF, and then you have South Florida and James Madison in the non-con. That's not the easiest non-con, that's for sure. Syracuse is in conference, but it's their first game of the year. You could start out 2-0, and those would be 2 huge road wins, and you would build a lot of momentum with the chance at going 4-0 to start the year. But going into the bounce house, UCF, there's a reason not a lot of Power 5 teams will go there. That's a hard place to play. I know they beat them last year, but now they got to travel to their place. But if you start 2-0, you're looking pretty good. Most of the games on the schedule are toss-ups. Like I said, last year, most of their games played out like toss-ups, and I think that could be the way this year. So if they are on the right side of those one-score ball games and with a veteran quarterback, right, Cunningham's not just a runner. He's one of the best deep ball throwers in the country, and with some of the talent you see there, I wouldn't be surprised if this clicks at all. If it doesn't click, like I said, then I have some long-term concerns. All these recruits coming in there, I'm going to have the concerns going forward if they couldn't make it happen this year. Because with that returning production and talent, you would expect that to happen this year, right? So other than that wraps this up. Extra Dough, episode 6. Thank you to everyone who tunes in each and every week. I hope you find this useful. My goal here is to get us as educated and prepared for the college football season as we can possibly be. I spend countless hours diving into college football. It's what I do. And I'm just trying to share some of that with you and have a little fun and trying to break it down into little bite-sized segments. I try to keep these videos like 20 minutes or so, right? I know we'll do a lot of betting videos when those come out, right? Give a look to the Heisman if you haven't yet. We talked Heisman betting odds. I talked some conference title odds with the ACC and Pac-12, and I'll continue doing that. Do some win totals every single week up until college football season. It's about 70 days away. I can't wait. I should have a calendar where I mark off the exact days and name it every single episode. But it's around the corner. I can't wait. So Extra Dough episode 6, we're going to be coming at you all off season long. During the season, we're going to be talking some DFS. We do college football DFS game. we do those breakdowns as good as you can possibly get out there on the interwebs. And that will be big. That'll be extra dough during the season. So other than that, thanks for listening and enjoy your day.